Hey everybody, what's good? What's going on? JB here, back. Hey, it is Advent of Cyber time. If you remember last year, I went through, I think we did almost all of TryHackMe's Advent of Cyber rooms or tasks as they came out. I tell anyone who's willing to listen, if you want to learn some of the basics about cybersecurity, both from an offensive and defensive side, this is one of the best free learning opportunities that you're going to have. They do 24 different days. Each day continues a storyline about Santa and the North Pole and how they got hacked and trying to, resolve that issue, identify different things, and mitigate those particular security things that ended up causing an issue. So they're back with it this year. So we're going to hop in and do today's first task, which I think is dealing with cybersecurity frameworks. I'm not going to go too deep in through all of the different initial stuff here. Just know it's a great way to learn. They got, at this point, over $40,000 worth of different prizes. So as you do these rooms, you get entered pretty much a raffle ticket for each of these things every time you do it. And they have daily prizes. So definitely drop in, do as many of these as you can. They're really, really cool. They got some rules that you can read through here. I mean, it's pretty much same stuff as the rest of their rooms. Socials. Make sure that you do actually go through here and click on all this stuff, though, because you will get entered for the different prizes just by knocking out these different tasks. So go through and do that. And kind of talk about subscribing there. And then they go into a little bit of a backstory here. Which I'm not really going to hit up at this point. You can go through and read about Elf McSkitty, who we dealt with last year with trying to solve the different cyber challenges that were going on, and almost kept Santa from being able to deliver come Christmas time. But you can go ahead and dive into that. But what we're going to do is hit up this first task for today, and that is called Someone's Coming to Town, and it deals with cybersecurity frameworks. As I move through this, if you have any questions or comments, I think this particular task here isn't going to be super technical. It's going to be a little bit more of an overview, talking about some different frameworks and kind of the ways that they go about approaching things. But you go ahead and say hello in the chat. Appreciate anybody who's dropping in and checking this out. And yeah, we'll just go ahead and get into this. So, best festival company compromised. Someone's trying to stop Christmas this year and stop Santa from delivering gifts to children who were nice this year. Same as last year. The best festivals company's website has been defaced, and children worldwide cannot send in their gift requests. There's much work to be done to investigate the attack and test other systems. The attackers have left a puzzle for the elves to solve and learn who the adversaries are. McSkitty looked at the puzzle and recognized some of the pieces as phases of the unified kill chain, and we'll talk about what that is here in a minute. A cybersecurity framework used to understand attackers. She has reached out to you to assist them in recovering their website, identify the attacker, and hopefully help save Christmas. So if you aren't familiar with what security frameworks are, we're going to dive into that here and talk about how they're documented processes that help define policies and procedures an organization should follow when they're establishing and managing security controls. So organizations such as Santa's Best Festival Company must adjust and improve their cybersecurity efforts to prevent data breaches. And so this is where security frameworks come into play as far as helping guide and set up security programs and continually look at different ways to improve the security posture within an organization. Frameworks help organizations remove the guesswork of securing their data and infrastructure by establishing processes and structures in a strategic plan. This will also help them achieve commercial and government regulatory requirements, which is often some of the driving factors for different organizations when they're looking at implementing different types of security frameworks, who they ultimately are liable to, who is approving their ability to work either in a commercial government space. Normally will dictate which frameworks organization might need to use. So some commonly used frameworks Anyone who's from the government side of things would be very familiar with the NIST Cybersecurity Framework, or CSF, is developed by NIST and provides a detailed guidance for organizations to manage and reduce cybersecurity risk. There's 5 essential functions within the framework: identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover. And what you're going to see is that a lot of the underlying themes here you're going to see in these different frameworks. It's just the way that they normally approach and categorize things might be a little bit different. So ISO 27000 series, the International Organization of Standardization, develops a series of frameworks for different industries and sectors. 27001 and 27002 standards are commonly known for cybersecurity and outline the requirements and procedures for creating, implementing, and managing an information security management system, or ISMS. These standards can be used to assess an institution's ability to meet set information security requirements through the application of risk management. Now, another one that you might have heard of before is the MITRE ATT&CK Framework. And this is kind of interesting because it's a framework that doesn't necessarily deal with stuff from an organizational perspective, kind of like the NIST framework or the ISO does, but it's more looking at understanding the TTPs of an adversary. So it helps in identifying adversary plans of attack, and it helps you understand the methods, behaviors, tools, and strategies. As I mentioned, those are called TTPs, tactics, techniques, and procedures. The MITRE ATT&CK Framework is a knowledge base of these different TTPs, and it's carefully curated, it's updated pretty consistently and detailed to ensure security teams can identify attack patterns. The framework structure is similar to a periodic table, mapping techniques against phases of the attack chain and referencing system platforms exploited. This framework highlights the detailed approach it provides when looking at an attack. It brings together environment-specific cybersecurity information to provide cyber threat intelligent insights that help teams develop effective security programs for their organization. So they actually do have a MITRE ATT&CK room, which is definitely worth checking out. If you work in a SOC or you're a security engineer, then you probably have heard of this and are familiar with it in some ways. And it's a good way to kind of overlay when looking or trying to understand how an attack happened in your environment. It's also a good way when you know the particular adversaries that your company or organization has, then you can go and look at previous types of TTPs that type of adversary would use, and then overlay that with the different types of monitoring and protection mechanisms that you have in your environment. So hopefully you can shore up some of those things. The cyber kill chain concept of this framework was adopted from the military with the terminology kill chain, which describes the structure of an attack and consists of target identification, decision, and order to attack the target, and finally target destruction. This was developed by Lockheed Martin, and the cyber kill chain describes the stages commonly followed in cyber attacks, and cybersecurity defenders can use this framework as part of their intelligence-driven defense. So you can kind of see the different stages outlined here. So there's going to be some recon. So that's trying to find out some information about the target, weaponization, delivery into the environment, then once in the environment, exploitation. From that, installation of some other things, which allows for command and control. So you have your adversaries being able to actively monitor and interact with whatever it was that they installed after the exploit. And then once they have that foothold, then they're able to actually act on whatever objectives they want to do in the environment. Again, just like the MITRE ATT&CK framework, they got a room that you can dive into here. So the last one that we have here is a unified kill chain. And this is a little bit of a combination of the MITRE ATT&CK framework and the cyber kill chain frameworks. So luckily for Santa, this is the framework that they're going to be using. The blue team up there at the North Pole is going to be using. So it describes 18 different phases of attack based on TTPs. The individual phases can be combined to form overarching goals. such as gaining initial foothold in the environment, navigating through the network to expand access, and perform actions on critical assets. So Santa's security team, we need to understand how these phases are put together from an attacker's perspective, and then doing that to be able to hopefully identify and prevent any further damage within the environment. All right, so cycle 1, getting in. So the main focus of this series of the phase is attacker to gain access into the environment. Typically, cyber attacks are initiated by an external attacker. So there's critical steps that they would follow. So they're going to recon. So they're going to be doing research on the target using publicly available information. So open source intel. Weaponization is setting up the needed infrastructure to host the C2, which is their tool sets. They'll be able to, their command and control infrastructure to be able to execute the attack and then continue to control once the attack has actually been implemented. Delivery, this is dealing with payloads or malicious instruments delivered to the target through numerous means. Normally you're going to see this maybe from a phishing attack, supply chain attack. Maybe they just show up and throw a whole bunch of infected USBs in your parking lot. You have a whole bunch of different delivery methods here. Social engineering. So this could be when an attacker tricks someone by trying to impersonate someone else, someone who's normally in a trusted position to be able to get certain types of information that the attacker would be able to use to further get into the environment. So maybe calling up, pretending to be someone from the help desk and saying, oh, we need to reset your password, and going through a process like that. And maybe being able to steal some information from a potential victim. Exploitation, in this case, the attacker finds an existing vulnerability, software, hardware weakness, and they'd be able to use that to trigger their payload. Persistence, we've actually been doing some persistence rooms lately on the channel from TryHackMe. So this is when the attacker will leave behind a fallback presence in the network or asset to make sure they have a point of access to the target. Because oftentimes maybe the initial access they got into the environment, if you have a good SOC or blue team, maybe they'll be able to identify that and cut that off. But if you're able to put in some other things that end up maybe beaconing back out to the C2 infrastructure via a different path, then that might allow the attacker to keep persistence in the environment. We have defense and evasion. The attacker must remain anonymous throughout their exploits by disabling and avoiding any types of security defense mechanisms enabled, so maybe logging, different types of alerting. This includes deleting evidence of their presence, so definitely cleaning up logs and things like that. And then command and control, as I talked about, this is the infrastructure the attacker prepared. It's a communication channel between the compromised system and the attacker's infrastructure. And normally you're going to see that established across the internet. So this particular phase may be considered a loop, as the attacker may be forced to change tactics or modify techniques if one fails to provide an entrance into the network. So through that, we end up getting to cycle 2, which is through. And under this phase, attackers will be interested in gaining more access and privilege within the environment. So the first one was about looking to get information, getting that initial foothold, establishing some different fallback ways, establishing their command and control channel. And then once they're in, then they want to kind of find out more information about the environment, pivot to other areas, try to get more higher level credentials, different types of privilege, escalation, get other types of access to things, and get lateral movement to different devices and assets in the environment. So pivoting, remember the system that the attacker may use for persistence. The system will become the attack launch pad for getting to other systems in the network. In order to do that, though, they're going to have to do discovery. So that's going to be trying to get as much information about the compromised system and other systems in the environment as they can. You do have to be careful with that, though, because if you just start trying to do massive amounts of discovery, that can also set off different types of alerting from a blue team perspective. Privilege escalation, obviously they want to get the account that has the highest level of access to things, that way that they can get important data or configure things on important systems. Execution with elevated privileges. Malicious code can be downloaded and executed to extract sensitive information or cause further havoc. So that's why they're going to try and get the highest level of privileges that they can. Credential access. Part of the extracted sensitive information would include Login credentials stored in the hard disk or memory. This provides attacker more firepower for their attacks. And then lateral movement, that's with the existing or with the extracted credentials that they got. They move around to other systems within the environment. And again, look for more important data maybe that they didn't have before, other types of access points, other types of exfil points, just trying to pretty much own the entire environment. And then that leads us to the last one, which is cycle 3, which is out. So the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of assets or services are compromised during this phase. Money, fame, and sabotage will drive attackers to undertake their reasons for executing their attacks and cause as much damage as possible and disappear without being detected. So collection of data, exfiltration of data, the impact that comes with that, and objectives. So collection, after finding a jackpot of data information, the attacker will seek to aggregate all they need. So trying to get as much as they can. By doing so, the asset's confidentiality would be compromised entirely, especially when dealing with trade secrets, financial information, personally identifiable information, PII, all of those things that need to be secured. If they are able to collect that, then the confidentiality of that definitely has been compromised. Exfiltration, wanted to get the loot out of the network, back over that C2 channel. So different types of techniques for being able to achieve their objectives, and trying to do this without actually setting off any alerts from the blue team. Impact, when compromising the availability or integrity of an asset or information, the attacker will use all the acquired privileges to manipulate, interrupt, and sabotage. Right, so it depends on what their actual goal here is, if it's to steal information or whether or not it's actually to cause damage within the environment. Objectives, attacker may have other goals to achieve that may affect the social or technical landscape of the target's operate let me say that again, or technical landscape that their targets operate within. Defining and understanding these objectives tends to help security teams familiarize themselves with adversarial attack tools and conduct risk assessments to defend their assets. This actually ties back to exactly what I was saying about the MITRE ATT&CK Framework and TTPs, and understanding who the adversaries are for your organization. So now we get back to Santa and trying to help McSkitty through this first challenge. So having gone through the UKC with Santa's security team, it's evident that better defensive strategies must be implemented to raise resilience against attacks. You would have thought they learned this last year, but I guess they didn't. Your task is to help the elves solve a puzzle left for them to identify who is trying to stop Christmas. So we're going to click the View Site button up at the top of the task to launch a static website, and then we're going to answer some of the questions, try to put together the puzzle to answer these questions here. So let's go up here, we're going to pop this up. See a bunch of people dropping in and leaving comments. I'm going to throw those up here in a second. Just grab this. All right. Good morning. How's it going? Hey, appreciate you dropping in. It is a good morning. It's almost 10. What's good, Daryl? Appreciate you dropping in. Dark Knight, hello. And things to know before getting into Linux video was removed. Oh, I don't know if the full one was removed or I had some issues streaming this morning, but I'll double check that. If it did get removed, I can re-upload it. Okay. So let's pop open this website. So I wish I could go bigger on this, but it'll work. So hello, for years you have delivered happiness and joy to millions around the world during the festivities. However, you have remained untested, and the time has finally arrived to turn the best festival company into grumpy and miserable. Oh no. I've taken over your website and warehouse it, and it's time to turn Christmas into chaos. So who wants to play a game to know who's behind all this misery? All right, worst grumpy company. Let's jump into this. Let's see what they got. So a little bit of puzzle here. And it's looks like some of the different pieces of the framework that we just went through. So we got clues here. So we'll just hit these up and see if we can answer these in the right way. So research is part of my is part of my ask finding clues in public sources. Let's see. Weaponization, social engineering, so research. Recon, I'm going to say it's recon. Command and control, defense evasion, delivery, exploitation, persistence. Recon is all about doing research, so we'll put that in one. Simple documents I turn into malware. So command and control, defense evasion, delivery, no. Exploitation, persistence, social. Weaponization would be taking a normal document and putting some type of malware inside of it. So let's go with that. 3, a pizza, parcel, or payload all have me as an action in common. So a pizza, parcel, or I'm going to say it's not command and control, defense evasion, delivery. Okay. A con is the name of the game, tricking you into believing a false identity. So we talked about people calling up and pretending to be other people, and that's going to be social engineering. Weaknesses are my go-to resources. Through them, I make my presence felt. So command and control, definitely not. Defense evasion, no. Persistence. So I think that's going to be exploitation. Exploiting weaknesses. Okay. I am set up to let you back into the network after you leave. Oh, we already talked about that. That's persistence. Deletion of evidence is part of my process. That's defense evasion. And that would leave number 8, command and control, communication with the compromised ghost or me. All right. Let's see. All right, more clues. Number 1. I am an anchor that lets you go on an adventure and explore. So we got credential access, discovery, execution, lateral movement, pivoting. So pivoting is when you have a foothold in some place and then go to or jump to other places, other assets. So let's go pivoting. With me, I can locate new information to expand the attack. We're going to say that's going to be discovery. We're going to discover more data. Once a pawn, I became a king. That sounds like escalation of privileges to me. My payloads are triggered to infect all they come in contact with. Let's go execution. My passwords I collect are the keys to the mainframe. So that sounds like credentials access to me. And then the last one would be lateral movement, which is side to side, machine to machine, we hop. Cool. All right, and the last puzzle. In your vault, I am in. So I would say that sounds like access to me. Like a dragon, I gather all the valuable loot. It's going to be collection. I export gathered treasures. Be exfiltration. With me, your reputation goes tumbling down. That would be impact. Goals set, goals attained, I win, objectives. All right. Let's see what we got. Bam! So the culprit behind the misery is the bandit Yeti. Wow. He looks pretty mean. Let's see. I'll drop that in. And the flag. It's a Yeti Christmas. All right, awesome. So that's going to wrap up today's task, looking at cybersecurity frameworks. Yeah, can't wait to see what's going to come out tomorrow. Normally I kind of start off with some basic stuff, and then next thing you know, you're in all sorts of different types of tool sets, both on the offensive and defensive side of things. So it's a lot of fun. Look forward to what tomorrow's room is. Appreciate everybody checking this out. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Yeah, go get at it, and I'll see you tomorrow.